Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Sports Scoop. Today, I'm going to be doing a 2023 NFL mock draft. This will be my mock draft 2.0. And just to know, now that the NFL season is coming to a close, we are going to be doing a lot more of this mock draft content. So make sure to like and subscribe to stay tuned to whether or not I do a mock draft or my other host, Kean McDermott and Charlie Nidell or Dylan Shalom all do mock drafts. So make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into the video. So with this mock draft, I'm not going to do any trades just to make it a tiny bit easier. So going with the first pick, you have the Chicago Bears, and I think they would trade this pick. But just for the sake of this, we're going to be keeping the pick, and I'm going to be taking Alabama edge rusher Will Anderson. And I think Jalen Carter is the best prospect in this entire draft class, in my opinion. But I don't think you can quantify the importance of a dominant edge rusher, and something that Chicago have really been lacking, especially now that they've lost Robert Quinn, who had 18 sacks. Obviously, they got rid of Khalil Mack. So I think Chicago obviously um, really looked like a shell of themselves on defense. Really not a great front seven at all. And they need to start building that up again. And why not start getting Will Anderson at first overall in the draft? And I assume they'll be adding some defensive line reinforcements in free agency as well. They have some of the most cap space in the entire league, so they are in a very good spot there. So I'm taking Will Anderson. Second pick, you've got the Houston Texans, and obviously you have to believe it is a quarterback here. And this is a tough one. I'm gonna go CJ Stroud, and I'm really kind of flip flopping between him and Bryce Young as my QB1. And the main reason why I have CJ Stroud ahead of Bryce Young is not really anything that's Bryce Young's fault. It's more the fact that I think his size is a bit concerning. His size, I think he's less than 200 pounds, I believe. So he's just not really that not that built for that NFL, at least right now. I think in terms of how far he is in terms of his obviously other physical traits like his athleticism, his ability, obviously his um he obviously has solid arm. He has solid arm, not a great arm, great improvisation, great mental ability as well, extremely accurate. He's got everything down to a T. I just think the size is a bit of a concern, while CJ I think isn't necessarily as ready. He's still pretty ready to start, not as ready as Bryce, not quite there yet mentally, but he has the ideal frame, in my opinion, for a quarterback, and he can throw it to any spot on the field. Decent pocket mobility as well. So that's why I have the Texans taking Stroud. I think Young also, I think you really can't, at least with the first two, I think either of them is a great pick for the Texans. Now going on to the third pick, you have the Arizona Cardinals, and I think they got to take Jalen Carter. He is, like I said, he is the best prospect in this entire draft class for me. And like I said, again, the Cardinals, another team that really need to rebuild that interior that 3-4 defense. Jalen Carter is going to be there and immediately be that guy who is the anchor of this defense, whether or not he's playing as three technique, not quite as good as at zero, but he will be an immediate record in the pass and the run game, and expect him to have a huge impact from the get-go. Fourth pick, you have the Indianapolis Colts, and this is where I take Bryce Young. Like I said, him and CJ Stroud, my opinion, 1A, 1B. And Bryce Young is, like I said, he is the most pro ready quarterback. He would probably be my favorite for rookie of the year, even going into a Colt situation that, let's just say, it's not great. I mean, obviously, it depends on who they get as their head coach, but I think Bryce Young is, like I said, very arguably the best quarterback in this draft class. I have him right behind, a sliver behind Stroud, but he is an elite playmaker, elite, like I said, improvisation, great mental ability, great accuracy. He's got everything you want in a franchise quarterback. And again, size isn't the only factor. I think he needs to bulk up a little bit, obviously, to make sure he can stand in the pocket even more and take those hits that he did show the poise that he was able to take in college. So I expect him to do that. Obviously, that's just the only concern, but I still think that this is an absolute slam dunk pick at pick 4. And in my opinion, he's probably going to go second overall to the Texans or maybe another team. Now you've got the fifth pick. You got the Seattle Seahawks. I have them taking Tyree Wilson edge out of Texas Tech. So the Seahawks really have done an impressive job with their rebuild so far. Offensively, they're already relatively set given the emergence of Geno Smith. They've got two great receivers, and obviously running back. Offensive line has been improved as well through the draft. So the defensive side of the ball, which has typically been the hallmark of Seattle teams in the 21st century, is struggling a bit, and especially on that defensive line, I think they need a lot of help. Tyree Wilson, while not as refined as a guy like a Miles Murphy from Clemson, he's got incredible physical tools. He's very strong at the point of attack. Kind of like I think like a familiar name for Seattle Seahawks fans, kind of like a Martellus Bennett back in the days of the Legion of Boom. If he can be that kind of player for Seattle, that is an elite pick at 5th overall. But now you go on to the 6th pick, and you've got the Detroit Lions. Um, yeah, this is a tough pick for the Lions here. I think this is another spot where I'd say maybe you trade down. I do like Miles Murphy. I do like him a lot here, but I think they've already got two good edge rushers in, two good pass rushers at least in Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston. They also drafted Josh Pascal as well. I don't think they go that direction. I think they go Devon Witherspoon from Illinois. Close, but he is my cornerback one. Um, he kind of, I feel like, fits in that Detroit mold. Not the same height and length as a lot of the other cornerbacks you see in this draft class and previous draft classes, but he elite ball skill, defensive ball skills, and I think he's also a very physical corner. I think that's something that Detroit fits in that Detroit mold. And obviously, they do need help on the boundary, given that they do have Jeff Okudah. But other than that, it hasn't been great. So I think this makes sense for the Lions. 7th overall, now you've got the Las Vegas Raiders. And this is a tough one because, like I said, again, you got Will Levis here, who is, I love him as a prospect, but you also got Anthony Richardson, who's a bit, again, another one of these guys who's a bit less refined, but I still think he's got, in my opinion, the highest upside in this entire class. I'm gonna go Anthony Richardson, and that's not a slight at all. It will leave Levis. I know he's been getting a lot of hate during this draft process, given that he did have a not a stellar season at Kentucky. But I think I prefer Richardson because more of his overall traits, and that's obviously Levis has great traits, but Richardson 6'4", I believe. He's got watching film of him, you can see that he's got obviously an elite arm and great rushing ability as well. Kind of in that Josh Allen kind of mold. Obviously, I'm not saying that he's going to be Josh Allen, but that is the kind of player, that is the type of build we're talking about here when we're talking about Anthony Richardson. Obviously, you cannot not get excited by that. He is not, again, like I said, he's not refined in all aspects. His accuracy isn't necessarily great, and he's also got to work on his touch, and he is pretty slow through progressions, but he's got decent pocket presence. Like I said, again, size and speed is great. Great mobility in the pocket as well. Got really a knack for kind of being able to maneuver out of it very easily. And I think that's a risk you're willing to take if you're Vegas. I don't think they are. If they're trading Card, that's got to mean rebuild. I don't know if Devontae Adams is on the way out also, but you need a super weapon to compete in this division. I think that's why Anthony Richardson makes a lot of sense here. But now you got the 8th pick, and you got the Atlanta Falcons. Um, Another team again that you could say arguably needs quarterback, but they also need help on the line. That's why I'm going to go Miles Murphy from Clemson. Like I said, very easily could be edge 2 in this class. He is just a great fit for Atlanta, who they've got decent interior help with Grady Jarrett there, and the defense kind of getting a little bit better, but they still need a lot of help on the defensive line. I think that's where Miles Murphy makes sense. Now you got the 9th pick. You got the Carolina Panthers. And like I said, again, no trades here, but if somehow Will Levis was able to fall to pick 9 to Carolina, they would be absolutely ecstatic here. I think kind of makes sense given that they did hire Frank Reich, that they would go for his own quarterback. Will Levis, again, like I said, had a bit of a drop off year in at Kentucky, but he was not surrounded by really any weapons whatsoever. Lost Wan'Dale Robinson to the draft. The offensive line was very poor, and the weapons were also not great either. But Levis is very experienced in a more pro style offense that they run in Kentucky. And he definitely has the ideal traits that scouts look for nowadays. Obviously, big arm, decently mobile, good size as well, as long as being tall. So I think if from that standpoint, I think Will Levis definitely makes sense. And I don't think there's I said this I don't think any of these top four quarterbacks are I think all of these top four quarterbacks are going to be top 10 locks in this draft by draft day. Now you got the 10th pick, you got the Philadelphia Eagles, and interesting situation for Philly. They because the reason why is because they are in the Super Bowl and they are also going to have the 10th pick in the NFL draft, and that is just not fair. But what do they really need? I don't think they really need receiver. Guard, maybe they could potentially go for because Sumalo is slated to be a free agent. But if I'm Philly, I'm gonna go with this is a this is such a tough pick because they're completely loaded at every single position you could think about. I am going to go Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. It's between him and star running back Bijan Robinson from Texas, but I'm gonna go Gonzalez by hair just because Slay and Bradbury both up in age. They're both, I believe, in their 30s, and Bradbury, I think Bradbury also doesn't have that long of a deal. I don't know if he's slated to be a free agent this year or the next. So just kind of again, Howie Roseman. A lot of the picks that he makes aren't even at positions that are currently of need, but for the future. And I think this is a very Eagles like pick. Christian Gonzalez has got really good size and wingspan, pretty physical cornerback, and I think he's kind of in that similar mold to a Patrick Surtain or a Sauce Gardner or J.C. Horn, that kind of. Not saying he's going to be that type of player, but again, similar to the Richardson conversation, he's in that mold. Now you got the 11th pick. You've got the Tennessee Titans. Tough one here. Tough one here. I'm going to go with my tackle one. He was all the way down here, Broderick Jones out of Georgia. And I think he really fits the Tennessee system like a glove, very power running downhill. And Broderick Jones also did not give up any sacks at Georgia last year. He is an absolute mauler. I think he's going to be someone who really steps in and immediately is an above average tackle and could develop into elite tackle, in my opinion. That is why he is my tackle number one. It's a really good class for offensive lineman, but he is my first to go off the board. Now you got the 12th pick, you got the Houston Texans. I think they've got to go receiver now to kind of help their young quarterback, CJ Stroud. They've got a guy like a Brandon Cooks who's good, and then they've got Mechie coming back, which is great for them, great for Mechie as well, of course. Tough one. I'm going to go with Jordan Addison. He was named the best receiver in the nation in 2020 or 2021. He again great kind of very silky smooth route runner. He's played with NFL talent already with Caleb Williams at Oklahoma. No, Caleb Williams at USC and Kenny Pickett at Pitt. So I think he's already going to be. He kind of knows. He's already kind of got that NFL level experience. Let's just say. And I think he is, in my opinion, he's just the most accomplished out of all these receivers. A bit of a safe pick compared to Quentin Johnson or Jackson Smith and Jigba. Actually, Smith and Jigba isn't really necessarily not a safe pick. It's just more I'd say he's more in the slot kind of mold. So I think Addison is a pretty logical pick. There isn't a Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson in this draft. Or like an elite receiver one, elite like receiver prospect this year. So I think Jordan, it's kind of up for grabs who you think is receiver one. So I'm going with Jordan Addison. Now you got the New York Jets at 13. I'm gonna go Peter Skorinsky from Northwestern, a guy who is listed as a tackle, can also play interior at guard, which the Jets obviously love their positional versatility with guys like Elijah Vera Tucker and Max Mitchell. So I think that definitely makes sense. You've got um obviously they've got Mekhi Becton potentially returning, but outside of that, it's a bit uncertain. George Fant is a slated free agent. You've also got Dwayne Brown, who is up there in age, who might potentially retire as well. So I think the Jets definitely want to get younger. Joe Douglas always wanting to rebuild the trenches, and I think Skoronski makes sense here. He is again another great tackle prospect that I love. Now you're going on to the 14th pick, you got the New England Patriots. Um, this is, I think, the Patriots kind of in a position where they do have a decent um number of needs, but I think Belichick. I'll tell you what is a very Belichick pick, I'd say, is Brian Branch from Alabama, a guy that is listed as a safety. He is kind of a Swiss Army knife. You can play him at free safety, slot safety. You can yes. No, free safety, strong safety. You can play him in at nickel. This is a very Belichick pick there. They've got really the offense. Their offense isn't necessarily great, but their offensive line is at least okay. They are trusting in Mac Jones, and I think they will get more receiver help later in the draft and in free agency. So I think this just kind of makes sense, at least from a Belichick standpoint. That's what I'd say. Now going on to the 15th pick, you've got the Green Bay Packers. Um, yeah, the Packers are in a position where they might potentially, not necessarily a full rebuild because they've got a decent number of talent, but they might be offloading Aaron Rodgers. Whether or not that happens will remain to be seen. But what do they go here? They've got a pretty decent team, in my opinion. They drafted well last year. They've got Christian Watson as potential receiver one. They also drafted Romeo Dubes. In terms of running back, they're obviously good there. Offensive line, I think they do need a little bit of help. Um, another very difficult pick here. I would go with um you know what? I'm going to go with uh defensive lineman Brian Brees from Clemson. And I think the reason why I make that pick is because they do have a really good interior lineman in Kenny Clark, but I think they do need a little bit more help. Obviously, they drafted Devontae Wyatt, but he hasn't exactly come into their own there. So I think Brian Gutekunst is kind of going to keep kind of going into that area, trying to make the Packers no longer weak on the interior, and I think that's just going to help open up more space for their edge rushers. Obviously, Rashawn Gary coming back, Preston Smith as well. So Brian Brees to the Packers at 15. Now the 16th pick, you got the Washington Commanders. Um, I think here the Commanders are a team that I really like going into next year. I think they are really talented on the offensive side of the ball. They've got great weapons at receiver, good running backs. They do have a quarterback that I think they are going to roll with in 2023 with Sam Howell. A great defense as well. So I think they do. I think one thing they could do is shore up the trenches on the offensive side of the ball and go offensive line here. So I'm going to go with guard Osiris Torrens from wait, actually, sorry. I'm just gonna look actually. I'm going to No, sorry. Sorry. I'm gonna go with Cyrus Torrens from Florida. I thought about cornerback, but I think Benjamin St. Juice has been good there. And I think they do have Kendall Fuller also. So I think they're okay at corner. Safety, obviously I think they're good there also with Cameron Curl. I think they are a team that, like I said, really is a team that is kind of being slept on going into the offseason because they've got a lot of the pieces around. They need the quarterback um, to be the quarterback. Yes, he needs to be a good quarterback. And I think if Sam Howell can be a solid top half quarterback in the league, I think the Commanders I think they will make the playoffs because they are a really talented team. And I think again, the one place you can go there is shore up the offensive line. I think that makes sense there at 16. Now going into the 17th pick, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think they go Paris Johnson from Ohio State. Again, the Steelers, another team that kind of needs that um needs that offensive line help. They've been kind of lacking in that area the past 2 years. They've got Okafor. I'm sorry, I'm quite not coming to me, not quite coming to me, but I think the Steelers still need to invest in that a little bit more. They've got great talent at the receiver position. They got Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. They've got Najee Harris. They've got Kenny Pickett, who they do believe in. They've got a defense that is pretty solid, but I think they do need to shore up that offensive line. I think that's where Paris Johnson comes in. And I've got the 18th pick. You got the Detroit Lions again. I think this is another difficult decision to make here because the Lions are another team that I really think are just so talented on both sides of the ball. Even the defense side that really did struggle to start the year, but really did they did come into their own in the second half of the season. I think they will go. It's a tough pick. I'm going to go Siaki Ika from Baylor. And this is kind of maybe this is a little bit of a reach here, but I think the Lions are a team that also kind of need a lot of interior help as well, kind of similar to the Packers. They want to be able to stop the run. Ika would kind of be a guy that's really his specialty. And I think that makes sense for the Lions to kind of bring him in, start him as a bit of a rotational player. And I think he'll be a guy that really improves the Lions' run defense. So a bit of a reach there, but like I said, no trades in this mock draft. So he goes to the Lions at 18, 19th overall. You've got the Green Bay, not the Green Bay Packers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who again, Tom Brady did just retire, which makes quarterback in need. I don't necessarily like Tanner McKee as a first rounder, so I'm not going to go reach there. I think another position that they are really that a position that's really of need there is the offensive line, and I think they definitely could do with some help there. Although I think tackle they're okay. I think they're okay at tackle. Um, where they could, I think they're also. I would also be open to a tight end pick there, Michael Mayer. See, I think the Bucks would be, I don't know how much money they'll have in free agency, but I think they'd be better. At least I don't think you can reach for one of these guys at this point in the draft. So I think they'll go. I'm gonna go with the flashy pick. It might not be necessarily what the Buccaneers need, but it'll make them better. I think Bijan Robinson out of Texas is the best running back prospect we have seen in a few years since Saquon, I'd probably say. Good, decent speed, really good athleticism, agility. Also, sorry, not decent speed, really good speed, really good agility, athleticism. He's also a solid power. He also has solid power as well. And Leonard Fournette, he was kind of seeming to be a bit on the downhill now. So I think the Bucks will probably look to move on from him, and I think Bijan would be a good selection here. Now the 20th pick got the Seattle Seahawks again. And again, like I said, they're another team that I really think they could use help on the interior. But since they cannot, I think they will go linebacker here because Jordan Brooks, really great player, but he did tear, I believe, his Achilles. So I think they might try and replace that. I'm going to go Trenton Simpson from Clemson, another Clemson defensive player. They've got a lot of amazing players on defense. I think Simpson kind of just offers Seattle a bit more reassurance. Like I said, on the offensive side of the ball, they are really great. Obviously, I think they could improve the offensive line a bit, but I think defense is a bigger concern. I think that's where Simpson comes in. I think he'll be another player who um really makes a huge difference in terms of the Seahawks rebuild. Now you got the 21st pick. You've got the Los Angeles Chargers, and they are really thinking they're lucky stars that the receivers have really fallen kindly for them. They have all but one receiver is still on the board, and that was Jordan Addison. So this is a tough one. It is a tough one. But the Chargers love that they have all of these options. I've been hearing a lot about the Zay Flowers hype. Definitely going into the Shrine Bowl, he's really shown up. He's got great speed. I think under 4.4 speed, great body control, great route running ability. He is a bit small, and which might confine. I don't think he'll confine him to the slot. I think he should play. I think he should play outside. I think he'll be great, but obviously it'll be harder for him. But I think the Chargers take him because the issue with the Chargers, one of the big issues with the Chargers, is that they don't have someone who can kind of take the top off of defense, someone who can really stretch the field. And I think that's what Zay Flowers is, besides being a guy who's a really refined route runner. I think it's exactly what the Chargers need. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, they are still really good receivers, but they've been pretty injury prone. And also Keenan Allen does not have great speed, not as good as he was necessarily a few years ago. Mike Williams, great one-on-one jump ball guy, but he also does not possess that speed that the Chargers really need in this receiver room if they really seriously want to be Super Bowl contenders. So I think that's where Zay Flowers makes sense. He's someone who could really have an immediate impact. And again, could be one of those guys who ends up winning offensive rookie of the year. So Zay Flowers to the Chargers, 22nd pick out the Ravens, another team that will really be looking at receiver here. I'm going to be going with this one, Jackson Smith and Jigba for Ohio State. And he was someone who was, again, he was plagued with injuries last year. But he was a really an elite receiver in that Ohio State receiver with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave the year prior. And I think he's someone who, again, not great size. He might play in the slot for the most part, but I think the main thing is that we've got to get Lamar Jackson weapons. And I think Smith and Jigba is going to be a guy that he's going to be that guy that really the Ravens are missing, that alpha receiver, obviously combined with Rashad Bateman. That's going to make their receiving room at least competent, and it's going to make the Ravens a lot more dangerous in terms of contending for the AFC North and just in the AFC in general, possibly. So I think that is a slam dunk pick there. 23rd now, you've got the Minnesota Vikings. They need help on defense. I think not much more to say there. I think overall just a bunch of positions to go here, but I'm gonna go cornerback. I'm gonna take Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State. Again, another guy with really good length, really good size. The Vikings. I've got not that many options at cornerback. They did draft Andrew Booth, but he didn't really play that great. Or wasn't really playing much at all. I don't know if he was injured for a large part, but he didn't really play a huge part in that defense. So I assume they could just go back there again this time with their first round pick and take Joey Porter there, improving at corner. Got the 24th pick now. Got the Jacksonville Jaguars, another team that are in a relatively good position right now. They've got in my opinion, their skill position set. They've got their quarterback set. The defense wasn't great last year, and I think they could definitely improve on that as well. I'm gonna go again. Another guy that really has fallen, Cam Smith, kind of to pair up with Tyson Campbell. I don't think they have a oh wait, no. I think yes, they go Cam Smith from South Carolina, and they move Darius Williams, I believe, to the nickel, because I think I do believe that was it Shaquille Griffin? Shaquille Griffin is a pending free agent. I think that just makes sense. Kind of make the secondary one of the best in the league, and it just makes Jacksonville a real force to be reckoned with in 2023. 25th pick now, you've got the New York Giants. Again, another team that really could use wide receiver help, and Quentin Johnson has fallen all the way down the board, and he is the ideal pick here for the Giants. Someone again, they really did a good job playing up to their ability. Last year in the receiver room, they didn't really have much options. Isaiah Hodgins did flash a little bit, but overall, there wasn't really that great options. They are getting guys like Sterling Shepard and Wan'Dale Robinson back, but I do assume they want to improve upon that. And Quentin Johnson is someone who his potential is really as an alpha wide receiver one there, and that is exactly really what Daniel Jones needs to take his game to the next level. Now I got the 26th pick. You've got the Dallas Cowboys. Another tough pick here. I think they're another team that also needs receiver help. I know they do have Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, but Gallup really didn't show enough, in my opinion, last year to be to still be like kind of assured of a spot. And I think especially when you're competing with teams like the Eagles, who are in the Super Bowl and can still be getting a lot better, you definitely need to be loaded up at the skill position. So I'm going to be going Josh Downs from North Carolina there. Now you've got the 27th pick. You got the Buffalo Bills, who probably were wishing one of these receivers would fall, but instead they do not have an option there. And I think, again, they're one of a number of teams that do need help on the interior of the defensive line. They also do need help interior of the offensive line. I think they also need help on the defensive line. Obviously, they are getting Von Miller back. Greg Rousseau did show a lot of potential this year. Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, they are great there, but I think they need a bit more depth there. Linebacker is another potential look for them, as well as secondary, cornerback, safety. I actually am going to go safety. I'm going to go Antonio Johnson out of Texas A&M, because I think with the Bills, you've got Jordan Poyer, who's slated free agency. Micah Hyde is coming off a serious neck injury. Damar Hamlin, obviously, with the unfortunate situation, who was also a backup at the time. So I think they do need a little bit more help at that back end. So I think that's where Johnson comes in and kind of make sure this secondary is still one of the better ones in the NFL. And I got the 28th pick. You got the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they go Anton Harrison, who's really fallen far, in my opinion. Obviously, Jonah Williams hasn't had a great season. I think they still need a lot more help there. Offensive line was definitely one of the reasons why the Bengals lost that game against Kansas City. Joe Burrow was consistently either getting sacked, pressured, it was just forced to get the ball out quicker. And that is really something that's going to, for a long time, is going to kind of be that one hurdle. They need to, that one thing that stops them from winning the Super Bowl, that offensive line. And I think at this point, just keep trying to build it up. Obviously, you're getting Lyle Collins back, and I'm assuming he will start at right tackle there. So why not also continue to build through the draft? Now I got the 29th pick. We've got the New Orleans Saints, who did just get this pick out of trading Sean Payton to the Denver Broncos. Tough pick here. I think this guy has really fallen farther than I would have liked. Nolan Smith out of Georgia, really great tools. Another piece on that insanely talented Georgia defense, and I think he's someone who could really turn into a real great piece for the Saints there. 30th pick. Now you got the Kansas City Chiefs, who again also are in the Super Bowl. Receiver, I feel like, is a bit it doesn't necessarily make as much sense considering there aren't that many available receivers here. I think they still could use a lot of help on the defensive line. I mean, I know they have Chris Jones. I think opposite them, they could use a little bit of help. I think they could use help at the edge, and I think I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to go Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. He can obviously play as the edge in that 4-3, but he can also play more inside as a 3 technique as well. Kind of in that similar mold to a George Karlaftis. So I think that makes sense there. And finally got the Philadelphia Eagles at 31. Again, this team should not be allowed to have two first round picks, but yeah, it is so hard to find a potential weakness for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think let's go Will McDonald from Iowa State again. Another one with really good traits. Another one that really could again another pick for the future for Howie Roseman, because he builds teams so well that they don't really have that many needs of the present. But that is it for the video. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Again, this is only my mock draft 2.0, so I'm going to continue to pump them out and get better, more, and be more knowledgeable about the positions and the players. So I'm sorry if I wasn't able to go fully in depth on all of them, but that's it for the video. Thank you for watching.